evening and welcome to our online series during this time of unspeakable horror and erasure. My name is Riwa Zinati and I'm the curator of public programming at the Arab American National Museum located here in Dearborn, Michigan. Before we begin tonight's program, I'd like to ground us with an acknowledgement that the Arab American National Museum sits on the ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe peoples, known as the Three Fires Confederacy, and of the Wyandotte people, and that it resides within the region with the highest concentration of Arab Americans in the nation. The Arab American National Museum is the first and only museum of its kind in the US devoted to recording the Arab American experience in its full range, richness, and diversity. Our Words for Palestine online reading is an effort to bridge solidarity with our families in Gaza and to raise funds for PCRF and Palestine Legal. During this time of relentless censorship and silencing, it's important to note that Palestine Legal is dedicated to protecting the civil and constitutional rights of anyone who speaks out for Palestinian freedom in the United States. If you look on the corner on my right, you can see the QR codes for PCRF and Palestine Legal. Please feel free to donate to one or both of these really important organizations. As we continue to center Palestinian artists, as well as artists who are actively working towards the liberation of Palestine, and to raise funds to honor and protect those who speak out, our event remains free. I'd like to acknowledge that Words for Palestine came about as a collective effort back in December by friends and writers Leila Halabi, Alia Yunus, Lisa Suhair Majaj, Diana Abu Jaber, Suzanne Maaddi Darraj, Leila Farah, and Ghassan Zainuddin. And since then, we have continued the conversation. I'd like to also thank our partners Mizna, Radius of Arab American Writers, and Palestine Rights, as well as the writers whom we'll hear from tonight. Zaina Hashim Beg, Samar Farah, Camilla Youssef, and Zain Al Amin, who is also our artist in residence for the month of June and July, and who will also be having an event at the museum tomorrow from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We're very happy to have you, Zain. I also want to thank our audience and invite you to drop your questions in the chat if you'd like to ask our readers anything about their work. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our moderator for the evening, Lina Abu Talib, who was our guest reader in our June iteration and shared her beautiful work with us. Lina Abu Talib is an Egyptian Palestinian writer asking you to commit to the Palestinian liberation struggle. Read her work at linaabutalib.onl. Welcome, Lina, and thank you for moderating tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being asked to moderate today and to be able to bring all these amazing poets together for such a beautiful cause. So right now, we're going to start the show off with Summer Farah. So Summer Farah is a Palestinian American writer from California, the author of the chapbook I Could Die Today and Live Again with Game Over Books. She organizes with the Radius of Arab American Writers and is a member of the National Book Critics Circle. She is calling on you to recommit yourself to the liberation of the Palestinian people each day.
Thank you, Lena. Okay, I'm gonna read a little bit, and yeah, okay. This first poem is called Poem for Akka Before and After Settlers Torch Palestinian Homes, May 2021. 1. I sing to the sea air in Akka the first and only time I visit Palestine. An American song out of my American mouth. My cousins practice their English, and I memorize no language, but their voice. We eat white fish, and I cry at every bone. I miss salty tears and salty sea and salty salt mingling on my lips. Oh, the sting is so good when you love the air that sends it. I know I was happy once. There is a photograph to prove it. My uncle, warm-faced, me on his shoulders and a white shawl to cover my arms, newly baptized by God, by home, family flank us on either side. In Akka, I sang to the sea, 7 years old, and my first love, the Mediterranean breeze, or maybe it was Tabaria. Oh, if only I could tell the Dead Sea I love it too. 2. I sing Palestine. Americans practice no voice. bones tear at sea. Oh, the air was happy once. No ash-covered home. Akka sang the sea. My love, the breeze. Oh, the dead too. Yeah. Okay. And now I'm gonna read from my chapbook. I Could Die Today and Live Again. This is poems inspired by Legend of Zelda video games. And if you buy it at Open Books through the link that will be in the chat, the proceeds go to evacuation funds to help families in Gaza. And that is part of an initiative between Open Books Poetry Emporium and Workshops for Gaza. And there's a whole storefront with a bunch of other books that all of those proceeds go to help the fund that's linked up at the top of the shop. So, okay, I'm gonna read. Okay. Ode to the Snot Bubble Child on Outset Island for my niece Noelle. There is mucus bubbling at the base of your nose. You scream when I clean your face. We have to walk before we can run. Know your legs first, then sprint. And yet you sprint, and so I follow. Who can blame you? Your body is yours and has only been around for so long. Who is to say this is not just part of growing up? There is so much they will try to take from you. Today, we let boogers be the worst. Dear one, your face is meant to be clean. Your water is meant to be clear. Your future is meant to be yours. I am prepared to brave the forest for you. Wait for me. Okay. This is okay. In another life, Link is a poet. My beloved city, we are the lucky ones. We worship a woman immortalized by stone, her trek impossible now. Our realms are severed by sky. Oh, what blood have we forgotten? Even when the sun sets, the same monsters patrol our streets. My beloved stone city, fed false borders. Oh, cruel superiority, how much culture have you spoiled? Oh, cruel delusions, how much blood have we forgotten? Demise comes for us all, no matter the proximity to light. History says the chosen one places foot and sword firm, even before the clouds dissolve. My boundless sky, I know we used to be yours too. There's evidence in our eyes, in candles lit for weddings, with the word for spiders. Please, before the stone city falls, Goddess, forgive us for our hubris. Forgive us for us, with even our wells drowned in history, our names dedicated to myth, dedicated to easier passage. Please, let every realm return to how we were. Let earth rejoin, sky return, and become more. Please, my beloved city, want it still. Okay, I think I'll do one more from the book. This one's called Moon Chasers at Fasting. A clouded night, but still your light persists. Girl runs and runs until her legs no longer suffice. A family shuffles into the car, eyes towards you. Up they drive. The air here is so unfamiliar that they have almost forgotten the wind. Its call, in tandem with moon, revives. It has been so long since we felt alive. Tonight, you are brighter. Tonight, you are closer, closer, closer. You have an ancient name, one recalled only on extraordinary evenings. A name that reminds us we too are guilty of theft. Up, up Towards the cloudless peak, people crowd the streets to try to capture your form, beg for a closeness that cannot come. This distance aches, and yet it is the middle of summer. There are no deer left to lend their names, absences, absences, wolves howl in their place, domesticated kin join to wildness. They have forgotten. Will a symphony calm your light? Will a symphony stop us from trying? If only, to catch up with the moon is to let it take your breath. To catch up with the moon is to start all over again. Okay, I'm gonna read poems from a series that I've been working on. So after writing the video game chapbook, I was like, I'm gonna keep writing poems about stuff I like. And so these are poems written to and after and for Ita Adnan. And they're sort of like writing about the pop culture, art, music, television that I'm kind of obsessed with, and thinking about the way that she writes about art and obsession and kind of talking back. And the things that I wish that I had been able to ask her about, like, would you like this TV show that I like? And so I'm gonna read two poems that mention Lena, our moderator, who is one of my best friends in the world. Okay. After we watch Road Food, I consider place. Adele, you wrote about wanting a place. Berkeley, Damascus, Delphi, Beirut. I understand the claim to the ancestral, as if my latent spirituality means there is something waiting for me in Nazareth. You know, Anthony Bourdain has seen more of Palestine than I have. Radical, they said, to give women in Gaza the courtesy of attention. My family gathers on the couch anyway, witness to this dangerous attention. My father asks me if I sign my name to the work I do. Fragile, barely critical, and still he worries. It's fine, he says. I'm not sure when you'll go again anyway. Lena and I pass notes during a craft talk on home. She says, liberation means my return too. Adele, I am as at home in Oakland as I am in Seattle, as I am on an airplane. Creaky back and all, as long as someone is speaking to me. 10 years ago, I tapped a man on the shoulder and pointed at two people I love, said, we are here because of you. A teenage devotion. I am ashamed for how much credit I give. I want. Do you watch food travel shows, Eto? So many have tried to assert Bourdain's legacy since his passing. I cried when I heard, decided to eat something new in his honor. I can't remember the name of the dish, so perhaps I missed the point. We watch Road Food with Helen, and we make exceptions for its mediocrity. Anything is worth the laughter, the love, this chorus of joy, and a couch that belongs to neither of us becomes place. Teenage devotion renewed, and I remember, we are here because of you. I am ashamed for how much credit I can give. What takes me from place to place. I wish I could ask you about past lives. I wish I could tell you this theory about the dispersal of souls for so long. I was self-righteous in my loneliness. If only the universe held enough balance to allow me in the same place as those whose hearts matched mine for longer than a week. Of course, who will know you completely before you are fully yourself? I never desired to travel, no, not unless someone was there waiting for me. But I have always been hungry. I have had homes in cities whose streets I cannot navigate. I come from a place mixed in surrender. I am afraid of asking the right questions. What I mean is, I will substitute the couch for a risk and get my heart broken anyway. There are so many lives I have not let myself live, restless, paradoxical, tripping instead into the imaginations of others, corrupted, cruel. I wonder about the life stolen from me. Would I love if I loved it from Palestine? My cousin reads my poem, says, I'm glad someone in the family can do this work, vague as to not trigger dangerous attention. This work, this work. Kill all idols, grant men no rewards. I am where I am, where I am. I'm sorry for I brought you into it all. I am learning what I already know. Okay, and then last one. This was written after Mizna Raleigh Fest, October 2023. Yeah, I tell Italy men about Raleigh 30 years later. On the plain, white men swarm each other, moth to a flame. Churchill biographies in hand, this common tongue, violent and mass-produced. For how many years have we tried to cultivate its counter? Adele, I am bringing you with me, not wisdom, but casualties. You speak of back pain, and so mine, too, feels like lineage. When a mundane little blessing to interrupt our art making, dry knuckles that crack when you grip a pen and the wrong kind of kitchen chair. We know the worst types of distraction, so let us love our obsessions, aches, and for as long as the sky is clear. The interviewer asks about you and Simone, how you felt in Beirut. Who was surprised when you insist safe? Adele, I have never been to Beirut, but my obsessions take me across country where we remake cities to honor the ones stolen from us, and so I think I understand. So much of me begins with you. I learn again and again. Can I draw you my most favorite map? A star in every corner to represent the people that I love. This knowing becomes exponential. Without you, I would not have them. Without them, I would not have you. We are holding each other amidst genocide. Lena's hand in mine 3 days straight. Oh, a privilege to hold, a privilege to gather. Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Summer, for such a beautiful, beautiful opening. I am so honored to be here and so honored to listen to your work. That was really incredible. So next up, after that gorgeous opening, we have Zaina Hashim Beck. Zaina Hashim Beck is a Lebanese poet. Her third poetry collection, O, won the 2023 Arab American Book Award for Poetry and was named a Best Book of the Year by Literary Hub and the New York Public Library. Her previous full-length collections are Louder Than Hearts, winner of the 2016 May Seraton New Hampshire Poetry Prize, and To Live in Autumn, winner of the 2013 Backwaters Prize. She's also the author of two chapbooks, Arabi Song, winner of the 2016 Rattle Chapbook Prize, and There Was and How Much There Was, a 2016 laureate choice selected by Carol Ann Duffy. Her work has appeared in the New York Times, The Atlantic, LARB, LitHub, The Nation, Academy of American Poets, and elsewhere. She's the co-editor with Halayan of the anthology We Call to the Eye in the Night, Love Poems by Writers of Arab Descent. She's the co-creator and co-host with poet Farah Shamma of Masood. Sorry, one second. She's the co-creator and co-host with poet Farah Shamma of Masouda, a podcast in Arabic about Arabic poetry. After a lifetime in Lebanon and a decade in Dubai, Zaina has recently moved with her family to California. Thank you, Zaina.
Hi, Lena. Thank you. Thank you for the intro. Sorry about the long bio. Thank you to Riwa and everyone at the Arab American National Museum for this gathering. Happy to gather among beloveds in these genocidal times. I would like to start by reading an excerpt of a poem by Mahmoud Darwish titled The Red Indian's Penultimate Speech to the White Man. Red Indian is in quotation marks, of course, because that's what the white man called indigenous people here. It's written in the voice of an indigenous man speaking to the white man. It's a long poem. You can find it You can find Mahmoud Darwish reciting it in Arabic on YouTube. And this translation is by Fadi Juda. I'm going to read a little bit of part 5 from my laptop. Hopefully I don't mess up reading from my laptop. There we go. And as we bid our fires farewell, we don't return the greeting. Don't write the decrees of the new God, the iron God, upon us. And don't ask the dead for a peace treaty. None of them remain to promise you peace with the self and others. We had longevity here before England's rifles, before French wine and influenza. We used to live as we should live, companions of the gazelle. We memorized our oral history. We used to promise you innocence and daisies. You have your God and we have ours. You have your past and we have ours. And time is a river. When we stare into the river, time wells up within us. Will you not memorize a bit of poetry to halt the slaughter? Weren't you born of women? Did you not suckle as we did the milk of longing for mothers? Did you not wear wings as we did to join the swallows? We used to announce spring to you, so don't draw your weapons. We can exchange some gifts and songs. My nation was here. My nation died here. Here, the chestnut trees hide my nation's soul. My nation will return as air and light and water. So take my mother's land by the sword. I will not sign my name to the peace treaty between the murdered and his killer. So this is just a part of Darwish's poem. I'm going to read a couple of poems from O, which is my latest collection, but also new poems. This one is titled Pilgrim. It's kind of weird to see your face as you're reading, so I'll try to imagine not my face on the screen. Pilgrim. I see you collect the scatter of houses that abandoned you. Friend, I see you lick the backs of photographs like stamps, and still they fall from your shoulders. In this one, you are young, before countries and children. Sit down. Like you, I collect what worries me. Fatherlands are ominous and comforting, like the eyes of those who love us, and my city is a leash that suffocates me the further I stray from the Mediterranean between the buildings. The swing sings its rust in the wind. Neither water nor stone will do. I've given up cigarettes and libations. I separate the jars on the bookshelves. These are for the ash, and these for the pickled, cheap icons. No matter how much vinegar I pour, the Marys never close their eyes. No matter how many times dawn is slaughtered, I cry when the minarets crow. Okay, keeping my eye on the time here. So I've been writing sonnets that are also palindromes. So I kind of read them from top to bottom, and then I flip them and I read them in reverse. And I think this is kind of a result of me moving to California, because you feel like you're always looking in different directions at the same time. Especially now during the genocide, you feel like you're living in this alternate reality here. I wrote this one around Thanksgiving, and it mentions both Gaza and Lebanon, South Lebanon, where journalists were also murdered. And of course, journalists keep being murdered in Gaza. This is titled Southern Sonnet. I'm trying to write you a love song, but the news overspills as I boil coffee. Suppose no ruins open a poem. Remember the hidden cyclamens, the mountains. I ask and fear my answers. If I sharpen my rage, will it cut through public grief? We feed on names and nightmares. We repeat when our children's children are born, may your days be much more beautiful. In the South, journalists are murdered and forbidden rain falls mournful, like poets. On this northern continent, strangers sell smiles with large turkeys and murderous thanks. Here, we lose language and praise barren peace. Here, we lose language and praise barren peace smiles with large turkeys and murderous thanks. On this northern continent, strangers sell forbidden rainfalls, mournful like poets. In the South, journalists are murdered and born. May your days be much more beautiful, we repeat. When our children's children are public grief, we feed on names and nightmares. If I sharpen my rage, will it cut through the mountains? I ask and fear. My answers? Remember the hidden cyclamens. Suppose no ruins. Open a poem. The news overspills. As I boil coffee, I'm trying to write you a love song, but this is another one of these sonnets. It was also written with Gaza in mind, and it was written with the Beirut 1982 siege in mind, and 2014 and 2006 in mind. It's titled Survival Sonnet. Gone, the rest of us. We plow memory, survival, bleeding gums. The dead aren't departing by sea. There are decades of song. Where were you in 2006? In 2014? I heard Ghazis still on the balcony, beckoning Beirut since 1982. Allo, are you listening? I haven't been courageous. The airport's bombed and so are the bridges. No one's allowing us anger or visas. Though poetry pretends to complicate things, the story's simple. The land remains ours. Forget the dumb doves. Ask for trusted news. The grandmothers say the pots were hot. The grandmothers say the pots were hot. Forget the dumb doves. Ask for trusted news. The story's simple. The land remains. Ars Poetica pretends to complicate things, allowing us anger and visas, though the airport's bombed and the bridges. No one's listening. No one's listening. I haven't been courageous since 1982. Allo, are you on the balcony, beckoning Beirut? In 2014, I heard Ghaz's still song. Where were you in 2006? Departing by sea? There are decades of survival, bleeding gums. The dead aren't gone. The rest of us, we plow memory. Okay, I think I'm going to end with a poem from O. This is a poem for friends It's a love poem for many, many of my friends, and it's titled Thank You, Antidepressants. Reader, let me tell you how I keep it together. Friendships and antidepressants. Long walks on the beach with H, he pretends these are workouts. And Nutella in bed with R, she sends, boil the water, you better have chocolate, from her car. And endless voice notes with L, she calls them personal podcasts. And WhatsApp stickers on demand from F. It is time to MILF, said her sticker with my face and red lips on my 40th birthday. And rants with H, another H, about weight and the lands that spit us out. And talks under midnight bougainvillea with R, same R, about our mothers and children's rage. And daily morning phone calls with L, another L, about nausea and skin and food allergies she's sure she's got, though no doctor can confirm. And I say, if you're sure you got it, then you got it. You got it. And jokes across continents with H, another other H, about impossible geographies, and arguments with M about whether we got married in 2005 or 2006. I say our first married summer was a year before the war, and he says no, it was the summer of the war, and we laugh. We laugh at how we measure time with pain, but not without tenderness. And conversations with G, better name this one, God, about my dislike for organized religion. And long voice notes with H, another other H, about the opposite of grace. This happens daily. So thank you, friends, who are there when the sadness comes or when my teeth fall apart. My teeth tend to do that bi-yearly. Friends who unscared me of antidepressants, who reassured me I won't become another Z or my grandmother. And yes, thank you, antidepressants. And you, reader, who stayed with me and might be wondering why so many of my friends' names' first letters are the same. And the answer is, when I said together in the first line of this poem, I did not mean it against fragmentation. Thank you.
Zaina, thank you so much. That was so stunning. And the last poem was so, so beautiful. Opening with Darwish was amazing. And I feel like for myself personally, being able to revisit your work like this is such a joy. So thank you for sharing with us today. Okay, so next we have Camilio Maima Yusuf. She is a text, performance, and education worker. She is the author of a book with a hole in it by Wendy Subway, which received the Caroline Bush Award. Her poems and essays have been published or are forthcoming with 1080 Press, Gulf Coast, Sukun, Poem a Day, Minzna, AAW's The Margins, Michigan Quarterly Review, Poet Lore, The Poetry Project, Project, Cordite Poetry Review, among others. Her work has also been featured in the anthologies Beyond Memory by University of Arkansas Press and Hadha Baladna with Wayne State University Press. In 2021, she co-wrote and acted in Kiropatra in Death More Radiant, a speculative meta-translation set in 3 time periods with Mariam Bazid and a host of people. She also hosts workshops and open mics and performances with her friends. Hailing from Lebanon, she is based between New York and Dearborn/Detroit and floats between there and elsewhere. She and you will see a free Palestine in this lifetime. Thank you, Camelia.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you, Zena. Thank you, Sama. Thank you, Rewa. Thank you, Fatima. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Museum. Thank you, all the folks who started the series. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I didn't know I was going to have the long bio read. I'm so sorry that was so long. Thank you, Lina, for stomaching that all. And thank you for everybody who gave me opportunities to do my work. I'm just going to start. I'm nervous. I'm never nervous before a reading. In person is easier. It's just me and a cat. Okay. I think I'm nervous because I'm often talking to people who I don't know, and I feel like I know so many people here. And I feel like a duty to say something. But sometimes poetry is just play. But I think since October, it's become a place to say things that are really hard to say in other places, or it's become a different container. This first one that I'm going to start with, I wrote shortly after October 7th with some of my friends from a writing group that used to meet in the library at the museum. Thank you, museum, for giving us that space, and everybody that was there. This is one of the first poems I wrote after, when we were all just frozen. Palestine Think Peace. I don't do titles these days, but I did a title then. Palestine Think Peace. The Ammos, we are them. We've inherited the muscle, participated in the discourse, learned from predecessors how to speak and say it with our hairy chests. We also learned silence, how not to say the secret word in front of others who may not want us, who do not want us, who hold the power and their sharp white claws. We afraid to say a secret word, Israel. Israel, instead, more native to my tongue, the utterance of resistance in Arabic about you, against you, hidden in my language to keep me safe and employed and fed and secure. Meanwhile, the baby's been bombed for decades and we live with secret words on our tongues, hidden from our bosses, our most silenced pain. The body is in pain. Gaza is the flesh. How much have we seen the bloodied bodies of babies? How normal the burden of death upon them, as if everyone who dies is Palestinian or Black. Everyone alive is speaking. What about the subaltern? Have we learned anything from theory? The Aboriginal Black Lives Matter movement says, in what they call Australia, the Aboriginal BLM movement says nothing about us without us, said Sarah. We are still sketching party lines. The party looks like that college icebreaker of a privilege walk. How far are you from danger? How close are you to pain? How weaponized is your voice? How internalized is your silence? How complicit your sustenance? How decrepit your laws? How alone the child? How alone the child? What a weapon language is, to call the oppressed a child, to believe temporarily in metaphor. How faulty the metaphor. How destitute is language, without sacrifice, without action. All my failed and failing love to my Arabs, seasons of betweenness and conflagration. The years between our tragedies are when we breathe and prepare, our long seasons of preparation. And to what rhyme, to what end? En route, another massacre, and now the big one. Corrosive corroboration, Western saccharine, slick snuck, candied poison into married mouths. Mama's disbelief wears her as the world is not what it promised, but what it threatened. Goliath, Leviathan, selfish cult. Every poem I try is an exorcism. What did we inherit and what we left behind? Gold coins embroidered into tarha, genetic memory making strong teeth, and celestial songs, apparition in dreams, halogen wastelands wasted on possession. Take my grandfather's house, take the trees, take everything and leave. The busts of my ancestors he carved, maybe. Leave the rocks or take them. My earth, which is mine, will always make more. What of possession can we renege as we tumble into uncertain histories? We malign ourselves as we utter ugly truths. The harrowing siren at the beach, there she swims. At every beach, transforms singular, becomes a beacon. How dare the horizon beckon to come and arrive so tenderly in the ongoing crisis? Arrival, arrival, what came before arrival? Elisions and fraudulent wars, followed by the burning bosom of empire, all that milk poison white. We here went to school among the fumes of factories, anything better than bombs. Bombs brought us here, kept machine churning. Bomb always a thread and a reality, never far in genetic memory. Solution temporary, solution silence. Stay quiet with your subversions, they'll take us away. Bombs like knocks on doors, the FBI a neighbor along with the SLA. This place an army with proxy armies. Not everyone understands proxy wars. Some of us have proxy wars in our lineage. What's your neighbor's war story? We kept them under our tongues until the veil dropped. Now imminent. Neighbor, what wars you? Neighbor, what wars you? Neighbor, what wars you? Down the block, the lady in her white socks selling us candy. We rode on pegs, our cousins, our armies, till we became old enough to bleed. Arab became Arabic girl, became Arab, become what I wish were insurgent. Maybe it all, maybe smokestacks and baba hands and mama hands and tetas walking the streets. The streets are for the hajjis. I'm sure some of us came here easy. I just don't know who those us's are. Are you sick of our tragedies yet? Get sicker. You go live behind the poison factory. Now, this stage of apocalypse, the only gun I got is poetry. And a very specific interview question for Jean Kaf. لا, Rain Kaf. Rain Kaf. A very short interview question for Rain Kaf. Ghassan Kanafani once wrote something like, Palestine will not be free until the Arab countries are free. Or Palestine will only be free once the Arab countries are free. Or the Arab countries' freedom will free Palestine. Or what is an Arab anyway? Or what does Arab freedom look like, feel like? Or Ghassan, who was younger than me now when he died, would he respectfully elder me? Would he smoke a Virginia Slim if I gave him one? What would he tell us, Ghassan, today about Arab freedom in Syria, in Sudan? What would he say about Syria and Sudan? I need an answer now. Please give me an answer now. Please make me an answer now. Fiction it even, my dear beloveds. Imagine with me an answer now, even if for a belated time or a belated condolence. All my condolences are belated. Weddings are easier. I even congratulate people who get citizenship marriages that they told nobody about. I embarrass myself because I got love in my eyes. Happy for someone else's wedding. Ghassan, my belated condolences. The viper approaches Ghassan. The viper is biting Ghassan. The petrol is spilt on concrete, Ghassan. The blood in the sand, the blood on concrete, Ghassan. The blood, sand, on grass, Ghassan. There is blood on the plains, Ghassan. The plains, the Levantine plains, Ghassan. And the sand. Ghassan, what you write in my reading of that book you wrote us, all you have left to us. You tell us what it is. Tell us what it is. How each freedom is a raft hitched to a massive boat, best liberated all at once, not one of us at a time, at the cost of each other's lives. La, la, please tell me, even if a fiction, how so the Arabs, Ghassan, how so the Arabs and all their captives can be free, and therefore, Palestine, and your such statement, and your paradigm. In the noon of it all, two arms in air, in dance after catastrophe, the body, the universe, the body, the fabric held at 2 points. I am lamb, I am shepherd, a star waits. The stars are a map in the noon of it all. A letter, a relic from a gone civilization. A noon holds the tail of the snake. A noon holds a star in its arc. A noon is a prayer before time. Here say the whale swallowed the sun. There an eclipse, the sun's wispy corona. Here say the whale spit it out, returned our sun to us this time. A small circle silences, a set of small teeth doubles. This the machine, my grandmother's language, gifted her by holy fish, forbidden her by man. In a dream, she and I, two Pisces fish, whispering friends in the noon of it all. A noon today on my brother's door. A noon between my legs. A noon on my neighbor's cheek. You hold the broken in me. You hold the setting sun. You escape the mouth of death, reconstituted in the noon of the universe. Single seed, bijou and float, there waits the ark. I have a minute left, so I'm going to read the note on the poem as fast as I can. A note on this poem, an invitation. O noon, the letter noon, intoning the n sound, pronounced noon. A Semitic letter, really in Arabic, Aramaic, Hebrew, and through some star-crossed lineage. It has a cousin in Sanskrit, maybe even with the same DNA. Some say the letter got its shape from an Egyptian hieroglyph of a snake. Some say the snake morphed into a whale, a fish, a dolphin. In the Quran, the surah of the pen begins by saying that the noon and the pen are in the act of writing, as if the noon were capable of script, were it not script itself, were it not a snake, a whale, a palimpsest. What writes us as we write it? In Arabic class, Professor Hani drew a noon on the board and asked us what it looked like. He wanted us to say a cup. We saw an ark instead, a boat. And true, the ancients believed it to be a cup. And true, the scholars believed it to be a boat holding a seed, the seed of the universe, awaiting rebirth after apocalypse. Birth as in pregnant womb, though this isn't in the scholarly texts. Some liken it to a setting sun, and Jonah, prophet who found God in the whale, the floating diacritical dot, Jonah escaping death. A noon as the beginning and end of existence. These days in Iraq, in Syria, in Palestine, in Yemen, in Sudan, elsewhere, being ravaged by death squads. Sometimes a symbol is painted on people's doors, noon, for Nazarene, for anyone who does not submit to tyranny. There waits the ark. Thank you.
Camelia, I'm so grateful to hear your work, Anjad. يعني how destitute is language is such a until you've invoked it. يعني Anjad, thank you. Okay. So next up and closing this beautiful, beautiful night is Zain Al-Amin. So Zain Al-Amin is a Lebanese-born poet and writer. He has an MFA in poetry from the University of Maryland. His poems have appeared in Wild River Review, Folio, Beltway Quarterly, Foreign Policy in Focus, CityLit, Greylit, Split This Rock, Penumbra, DC Poets Against the War, an anthology, and Ghost Fishing, an eco justice poetry anthology, and the upcoming, or the now published, We Call to the Eye and the Night, Love Poems by Writers of Arab Heritage. His latest poetry manuscript, A Travel Guide for the Exiled, was shortlisted for the Bergman Prize, judged by Louise Gluck. Al-Amin was awarded the Megaphone Prize by Radex Media for his collection of short stories titled Is This How You Eat a Watermelon? The book was nominated for the Penn Robert W. Birmingham Prize for debut short story collection. Al-Amin's short stories have appeared in Litub, Electric Literature, Uno Mas, Jadaliya, Middle East Report, Wild River Review, About Place Journal, and Bound Off. Al-Amin lives in Washington, D.C., teaching creative writing and global literature at Georgetown University. Thank you.
Thank you, Lena, and thanks to the museum for this opportunity to share some work, and also the fact that they've given me this place to write for the next well for now for the next couple of weeks. I've had a month and a half because I'm serving as the artist in residence for the museum. Today I wanted to read you some poems by two poems by Lebanese poets, one by a Palestinian and one by an African American poet, Saul Williams. I'll end with that one. I'm going to start with something that maybe only Zaina Hashim Beg has heard so far, because it's a poem by the Palestinian American poet Halal Yan, which she actually wrote just last week, and I heard it. And it kind of it devastated me, as if we needed more devastation. The poem is titled "What is the Most American Thing About You?" My mouth, my nerves, the six accents in my accent, the way I cross a street without looking twice, fill a suitcase without thinking twice, wake at dawn to nothing, the way I count slaughter in months, 1, 2, 3, 4, my mouth, that I still believe it can get me out of trouble, that when a soldier asks from where, I say here, then nowhere, that when a soldier touches my hair and says, "Who knows what you might be hiding in there?" I say, "Yes," say, "Sorry," say, "I got it from a woman." Don't worry, she's dead. You flooded her village. 5, 6, 7, 8. How many months are in a body? How many cradles are in a bloodline? A father walks the streets and says, "This is a child, this is a child, this is a child." My mouth, the way it makes confessions nobody asked for, the way it forgets the word for hasra, khayal, istislam, the way it's always telling a story. Once there was a man, a ring, a border shredded like paper. Once an army band wedding dresses, and apples, and pianos, and the children became memos, and the land flattened with noise. And Lorca says, "Nor is my house any longer my house." And Darwish says, "I forgot, like you, to die." And what do you call a photo op? What do you call water that nobody can drink? What is the most American thing about you? My mouth, my loud, my dollar, how it goes from pocket to missile, lodges itself into a boy's rib. My river, my tree, my ring, how will I still love the moon, even when drone, even when checkpoint, even when children eat? What do they eat? Oh, but the moon, once it glowed in Jebel, once I wore a dress and walked into a room of music. Once I gave a ring back. I'm sorry. Forget the ring. Forget the moon. A father walks the streets and says, "This is a country. This is a country. This is a country." In Manhattan, it's a new month. And before she dies, she doesn't die. Before she dies, she says, "Now's the rest of you. Now, says, now the rest of you have to live." So we live and live and live. We gather in a church by a park to listen to the sound of her voice. We say, "This is living." We say, "Yes." We say, "I love, I love, I love." Once a man said, "I will burn the English from your mouth." And what he meant was, "I am like you, dangerous and pretending not to be." Forget the man. I'm saying I want to be remade in a Belfast terminal, in a 10,000 person march, in a bed in Greenpoint, to be touched until I forget my own name. Lorca says, "Just your hot heart." Darwish says, "I want from love only the beginning." So here's my American memory, short as a song. Here's my grandmother's sea. It moves bright as gossip, visible from every window. O land of interruption, O road trip into the past. Forget the past. I'm trying to say I love a good interrogation. I'm trying to say they turn dresses into crimes. Who remembers the music? Who breathes through rubble? Once a place exploded and my father became fictional. Don't talk to me about September, I forget. Whose husband was that? Mine? Not mine. Whose birthplace? Whose soldier pointed a gun and said, "Hey, pretty, sit down"? What is the most American thing about you? Was it your hair or your knife? Your rot or your metaphor? Once I hitchhiked from rooftop to sea, left during the war, came back, slept on a bench, slept for a year, and the walls were yellow, and the bombs rattled the windows, and nobody died. What do you think I do with a missile? My knees on the ground, my God on the line, and I can't stop dreaming about those dresses, the shovels, the children, the way a man said he'd die and then he lived and then left. Lorca says, "Why was I born among mirrors?" Darwish says, "If there must be a moon, let it be high." Once my grandmother left a village and they put a water park in her place. Once I left my name in a man's mouth, and I think it might be time to go get it. Forget the moon. I'm saying I want to live. I want to hear her voice every morning. I want music. I want wine. I want the wrong accent, the wrong sea, the wrong hands on my throat. I want what I want, what I want, and this is the most American thing about me. I'm saying, forget my hands. I'm nowhere near a checkpoint. I'm 10 past midnight, a full mile west to the water. And from here, this river could almost be a sea. This country could almost be a country. And how dare I speak of love? Where are the dresses now? Who hems their lace? Whose hands collect white? Whose hands count bodies? Who will remember what was done? Who will do all this living? The next poem is by actually a friend of Hala Alian, the Lebanese poet Ghinwa Jauhari, also that was written recently and published in the Brooklyn Rail. Um, it's titled, "I Translate the Names of Boys Killed in Gaza." In the city of poets, there's a boy with a stone. He is the guardian, lion-hearted and small. The stone half of his palm half of mine. The land scorched by naked sun. The blue of the sky lightens his eyes. In the city of poets, there's a boy with a stone. We call him Haidar, which means lion, which means brave. We call him Khadir, which means goodness. We call him Ahmad, which means commendable. We call him Rashad, which means good judgment. In the city of poets, the boy with a stone can visit his family in Al Quds, which means Jerusalem. He picks oranges and lemons with his grandfather on an orchard as long as his small boy body can see. He fills a basket with vibrant fruit for his mother. He doesn't drop the stone. We call him Riyad, which means gardens. We call him Siraj, which means light. We call him Mazin, which means cloud. We call him Saad, which means happiness. We call him Basim, which means the one who smiles. He is always smiling. On his shoulders, he holds his sister up to a branch she can't reach, and they both fall, laughing to the soft red earth that's known them and fed them in every past life. He leads her back home where their mother bakes bread. He holds her hand. He doesn't drop the stone. We call him Mehdi, which means rightly guided. We call him Amir, which means prince. We call him Ala, which means nobility. We call him Sulaiman, which means a man of peace. We call him Mustafa, which means chosen one. In the city of poets, there's a boy with a stone. At school, he memorizes verses from Darwish, Samih al Qasim, Fadwa Tukan. Midday, outside, the sun overhead warms his small body as he kicks a ball to other small boys like him. In each of their hands, there's a stone. We call him Hani, which means carefree and happy. We call him Tariq, which means morning sun. We call him Salah, which means peace. We call him Baha, which means brilliance. We call him Marwan, which means stone. In the city of poets, the boy sleeps in a bedroom with his brother. On the walls, there are posters of soccer players and musicians. His parents smoke and laugh downstairs with their neighbors. Outside, the only noises are from crickets, the carpet of stars. Above them, lights the angle of his brother's face, his future face. Even in sleep, they don't drop the stone. We call him Salim, which means safe and secure. We call him Hazim, which means determined. We call him Omar, which means long lived. We call him Khalid, which means endless, eternal. In the city of poets, a tank waits for him, an army behind, flanked by a police brigade, glazed in impenetrable armor. Over his home, the deafening whine of an airstrike. The boy will wake on this day, his stone in hand, his hand clutched like a heart at the moment of flight, our guardian, and we will call him Shaheed, which means martyr. Um, the third poem is a poem that comes out of my book. Is this how you eat a watermelon? And it's a story titled Killdeer, in which a poet, or rather a writer, is trying to write a story, but he keeps being nagged by this killdeer. It's a type of bird that's actually masterful at playing the victim, playing like an injured bird. I never knew how relevant it'll be to today's events, but if finally he abandons the work he's working on, and this poem comes out at the end. And this poem that comes out of him deals with two events in 1982, the siege of 1982, which Zaina has mentioned, which is the war on Beirut, or the war on Lebanon. And it's he remembers that him and his brothers at that point were trying to retrieve their mother's body after she had passed away during the invasion. And he remembers also his cousin playing soccer, and his cousins the his aunt basically trying to retrieve his cousin when she heard the planes coming and she was pregnant, and and in her attempt to retrieve him, she loses the baby, but saves the boy. So this is called Tossed Up Boy. Tossed Up World. The dream came to a boy of 10. 4 boys walked the breadth of Syria in a matter of minutes, egg-shaped mud houses that once saw on a family weekend excursion rise out of the desert empty. Dryness and silence, but no wind or breeze. Like the moments before the bombs unzipped the sky with a whistle, followed by the tossing of the earth and a mother running to snag her boy busy dribbling downfield, throwing up the whole lot like a sandbox. A slow heave where the seconds are stretched and snapped and everything's left to gravity. Earth with its ready embrace, not knowing who to catch first, the boy or the mother or the water cushioned child about to be unborn into this tossed up world. The sand for miles without sleep, without the need to sleep. Something beyond the border beckons. Something summons the boys, and the boys walk on. A clear demarcation now at their feet, their shoes paired at the edge. On their side, the yellow sand and great rocks. On the other, a charcoal expanse of scorched earth. This side, a sky punctuated by a passive sun. That side, the night. One step takes them from being drenched in the sunlight to a scorched darkness, and they take it in unison into the airless night and onto the smoldering earth. Where there was supposed to be mountains turbaned by stagnant clouds, there is instead a plain darkened, not by the turn of the world, but by extinguished light. They look north for vineyards and the Roman ruins rising out of the plains and see only leveled land where there are supposed to be centuries old cedars skirted by mist, suspended by the chilled air. There's only a smattering of smoke seeping out of expired soil. In the logic of the dream, all 4 know that they're heading to Beirut. All 4 guess that it will not be there. They step all together over another line of demarcation from the misted plains to a landscape capped with concrete, from one darkness to the other. The sky, a dull black dome perforated by multiple impotent moons that arc over the night, moons that can't inspire love or pain or lunacy, just cataracts in the eye of an absent God. And lastly, I want to read a poem that I read to the George Washington University encampment by Saul Williams, who's been an incredible advocate in terms of like Black solidarity for Palestinians. And this is I always like to call, to end up with a call for action. I always like to weave back to hope rather. Um, and this poem is called Dear America. I had asked the students before reading this poem to them as they gathered on the last day before the encampment was wiped away. I asked them if the students have ever been on the wrong side of history. And of course, they knew never. And that they've always been on the right side of liberation struggles. And I asked them if Israel has ever been on any side, on the right side of history, and they answered correctly that they've never been side. And I called out, have they ever been on the right side of a history in Latin America? No. And they all hundreds shouted no. And I asked them if they've ever been on the right side of the Middle East. No. Asia, anywhere in Asia, no. And then I read this poem titled Dear America by Saul Williams. We don't want it. We did not ask for it. We have no need for it. We're not interested in the myths you teach your children. We know how the West was won. We know what forefathers felt. We seek greater freedoms. Your imperial claims do not interest us. We run on alternative fuels. We joined your army for healthcare and benefits. Your enemies are not ours. Your weapons have been formed against us. Your borders know no boundaries. We know where you keep the keys. We know where the wealth or how the wealth was built. We know why the wars were fought. We know who you chose to kill. We people are your prisons. We know the voices you fought to suppress for lesser freedoms, for cheaper prices, for unshared profits. We know your stock tips. We know what we bring to the table and how lonely you'll be if we don't bring it. We know every lie you've told and every lie told to you to save your precious ears, to save you from your fears. We know what the schools won't teach. We know where the preacher sleeps. We know how the reaper reaps his stash of hella cells. We know your private hells. You can't unring the bell. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zain. That was so beautiful. Yatikum al-afia, everyone, for the staff and the team at the museum and for hosting this and bringing us together, and obviously for the poets for bringing us all in and sharing such a beautiful space and creating such a beautiful space today. So we're going to be able to take one question due to the time restraints we have. And so the question is for all of you. It is, I am also curious to hear about how each poet writes. Do they have focused session? Is it more fluid and spontaneous? So if anyone wants to start, feel free.
I'll start. I'm a super undisciplined writer. When I get a line in my head, I have to write it down either on my phone or a notebook nearby. Otherwise, it will never become a poem. If it comes out in one go, wonderful. And then I try to return to it every few weeks to months, etc., until it kind of unfolds. Uh, it's hard for me to be like, I want to write today. It doesn't work. But it's good to like get your body moving. That always helps me write stuff.
Camelia, did you want to say something? Yeah. I tend to define writing not just as the moment when we put the words on the page. Everything that precedes that moment is also writing. So when even if and I tend to like in terms of putting words on the page, I tend to do that in waves. So some month I won't be writing at all, and then some month I'll be constantly writing. But that constant writing comes from the writing which is not putting words on the page, which is just like navigating the word, paying attention, keeping mental notes, and thinking a way the way an artist or a poet would think, you know, which is like asking questions about everything. So I think both these are defined for me as writing, if that helps at all. And I think, yeah, I do it in waves.
Yeah, I love all the like I don't know, all the different like ways we're called to write and like keeping the notebook. How many notebooks do you guys have? Like with a show of hands that you keep active? 4, 3, 2.
I am a failure at notebooks. I keep like I don't I do notes on my phone,
Nice.
and then I do like random papers. But I'm a failure at notebooks. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have like 1, 2, 3 active notebooks, and then I also keep papers. And I've been writing. So anyway, so yeah, so usually I would keep a notebook, but these days, then like I'll do the thing where something happens to me. But now I think that writing is a decision every time. I like have to decide to go to the writing desk, and I like have to trust that everything that happens in between my writing periods is gonna somehow be contained in the whatever I write when I sit down to write. And so I kind of like I trust my subconscious a little bit, which is like really scary. And then that 20 minutes is the time that I have to write. And that's also surviving capitalism, I think, is part of it. Because I can like sometimes I can afford like only like 20 minutes of like straight thought because my brain is being eaten up by other things other times. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm. There's a writer that once said that they write according to routine. That inspiration could come anytime, but he would rather train inspiration so that it comes at the right time. Basically, to have a routine so that inspiration knows when and where to find you, and so. And on the best of days, I write in the morning, and of course it varies. If I'm writing poetry, it's writing tidbits as things come out of nowhere. If I'm writing prose, I make sure to stop the day before at a point where I on a cliffhanger, basically, so that I don't have to start from scratch. So that's my routine.
Thank you guys, and thank you again to the museum for hosting us. The link is still up here on the right for the Palestine Children's Relief and for Palestine Legal. And as Summer mentioned, you can also purchase her book, and the funds will be going to evacuation funds. So thank you again to the staff, to the readers, to the poets, to everybody who puts this together every single month and who helped us this month in July. And we'll see you next month in August. Thank you.
Thank you, Lena.